Welcome. We're here at the Federal Conservative Leadership Convention. You're a Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Finance. What I want you to talk about, I know your platform is lowering taxes and also lowering the deficit. How are we going to be able to lower all that stuff?
Well, first of all, every Canadian knows that they have to balance their own household budget, and they expect their government to do the same. And as Parliamentary Secretary to Jim Flaherty, I worked with Jim Flaherty, as well as I was part of the team that balanced the budget in 2015. I know that budgets don't balance themselves. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of planning. And you're right, the debt is going to be, the accumulated debt is going to be $750 billion by the time the next election happens, and that's a lot of money. So we've got to get our fiscal house in order, and I have a plan to do that. In fact, I'm the only candidate of the 13 leadership candidates that actually has a plan to get us back to a balanced budget, and it's on my website, it's written, and it's a costed plan. I would do things like, for example, I would freeze government spending for 2 years and look for a way to reduce budgets by 5%. Every department has at least 5% of fat that they can cut, and I would look to cut that 5%. I would also look at the mandate of the CBC. I would go back to the original mandate of the CBC, which was to fill gaps in programming for northern communities, French language programming, cultural programming, and for the radio station. This is what I would do with CBC, which would save us $400 million a year. I would also cut the $5 billion that Justin Trudeau has promised for third world nations to fight climate change. We all know what happens when you give money like that to third world countries. It disappears. So these are the types of things that I would do to bring us back to a balanced budget, which is what Canadians want. And then I would look to lower taxes. When we were in office, we had the lowest taxes in 50 years. At the same time, we had the highest transfer payments to the provinces for healthcare and for education. And I believe we need to get back there. We need to lower taxes so that businesses can continue to hire and create jobs, because that's what we're looking at going forward.
Well, we're looking right now, that they're calling for the renegotiation of NAFTA. It's going to begin in August. What do you think is going to be the ramification of that? And before I get you to answer that question, I want to add another one to it. Do you feel that the negotiation team from Canada should be at least one or two people from every party, including First Nations, so that way that we're presenting that coalition, that we are together, this is our nation, and we will defend it?
Well, look, NAFTA has worked out extremely well for Canada. It's created hundreds of thousands of jobs in the last 30 years, and we need to protect NAFTA. As Prime Minister, I will make sure that we negotiate from a position of strength. 35 states in the United States rely on Canada as their #1 trading partner. 8 million jobs in the US are directly related to their trade with Canada. So the United States needs Canada as well. And they're our #1 trading partner. 70% of our exports go there. So I would make sure that we negotiate from a position of strength so that we get the best deal possible for Canada. I would also make sure that we continue to negotiate free trade deals with other countries like Japan, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. Countries that have democracies similar to ours. I would not negotiate a free trade agreement with dictatorships, and I certainly would not negotiate a free trade agreement with China.
Yeah, that would be one big thing that I would like to ask you about, because right now Justin Trudeau is talking about doing a free trade with China, and I don't agree with that in any way. I want to quickly, look over at the veteran community where I come from. I know the new charter, I think it's a lot better than the old one. I think we need to still do some more tweaks with it. One thing I'm a real big supporter of is that we need to take the younger veterans and say, okay, we're going to give you back that lifetime pension. You served your nation, you answered the call to the bell, you went and put the uniform on, you went overseas for us, and we're going to return that back. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, Canadians, up until very recently, have been used to having veterans who are very old, but that's no longer the case. We now have veterans who are quite young, who have come back from Afghanistan, from Libya, and other conflicts in the Middle East. So yes, you're right, we have to look after our men and women in uniform. They're putting their lives on the line to protect us. We have to make sure they're properly looked after when they come back, especially when it comes to mental health issues and emotional issues. We have to make sure that they have the resources in place to be looked after when they come back to Canada so that they can reintegrate into our communities as quickly as possible.
I want to quickly add, when I left the military in 1995, there was hardly anything there. And the new charter has provided so much. And as an older veteran that was a peacekeeper, You know, I thank your party, and I also thank Paul Martin for working together, you know, sort of going over top of political lines and giving us something back. I just want to thank you.
You're welcome, Reg. Pleasure. Okay. Thank you.